folks, this video is on digital transformation strategy in the era of AI. The video is designed for business leaders, managers and decision makers. It's also very good for technologists and those who are in charge of transformation, as well as consultants that want to steal our ideas and pass them as their own. The video will be broken into three key areas. The first is these critical understandings. I ask you to be patient with me. The reason I've put in critical understandings and definitions here is because most digital transformation strategies fail. And it's because of critical understanding or misunderstanding. So I just need to clear up some very basic stuff. And I do think there's something in here for everyone, no matter how experienced you are. The second phase of the video, we're going to be taking a look at AI, in particular generative AI, and how it is massively transforming that whole space of strategy framework, strategy planning, and the speed of which strategic decisions can be made and changes made to a business. And the third phase we're going to be taking a look at is a use case, a quick case study of Gareth Walsh and his engineering firm. It's a wonderful story, I love to tell it, and it's completely true. Enough of this tomfoolery, let's get on with the show. Modernising isn't the same as transforming. In 1810, the Amoskeag Manufacturing Company, a textiles firm in New Hampshire in the United States, decided it was going to supply the land with all of the textiles needs, having been influenced by what was happening in England at the time. The company grew, 17,000 employees, 30 different mills. It did very well. Frederick Smith, who was the CEO at the time, decided that he wanted to modernise the organisation. He'd heard of this wonderful groundbreaking technology called electricity. He decided that he was going to remove the old turbines and put in electricity-powered motors. Now, the way manufacturing worked was that a large drive shaft ran through the factory floor and belts then turned to power the looms. The problem is that Smith's company still made exactly the same products for exactly the same customers, using exactly the same processes, the same people, using the same machinery, just powered by a new technology. They modernised, but they didn't transform. And by the 1930s, the business went bankrupt. The same thing is happening with many businesses right now. They're calling it transformation, but it's some kind of digitization and modernization. AI is as ubiquitous and as easy to access as electricity itself. It's not the ability to take on the technology, it's what you decide to do with it. And that's where the strategy really plays its part. How do you get 5 wildly different definitions of the term digital transformation? Easy. Go into any corporate boardroom and ask 5 executives. They'll all give you their own version. And I believe that most businesses need to start defining what it means in order to stop the proliferation of random acts of digital, the purchase of random technology in the belief that it will create transformation. Digital transformation is the deliberate strategic repositioning of your business in a digital economy leveraging emerging technology. What we're saying here is that 3 things are at play. 1, your industry is changing and you've decided to strategically reposition in it. You're going to innovate and create new products and services and make sense of that future state before it arrives. You have decided to do this as a strategic imperative within your organisation that is going to lead to transformational change, and you're going to do it leveraging this emerging technology, and AI is the big one at the moment. These things need to come into confluence before successful digital transformations can happen. But start with the definition. It's a good place to start. Okay, digital transformation strategy in the era of AI. What does the word strategy actually mean here? Most organizations say they have a strategy, but they don't. They have a sequence of plans. What's the difference between a plan and a strategy? Well, a plan, you typically know the outcome before you start. We're going to migrate to the cloud. We're going to build a new team. We're going to launch a new product. We're going to rent more warehouse space, whatever it happens to be. And you know the plan of what it is that you're trying to achieve. That's a plan, and they're important. Strategies are different. In the Greek term strategy, it meant the way of the leader in war times. And in the 6th century, this was adopted by the Romans. And I know what have the Romans ever done for us, but that's a different video. The Romans took it to mean the playbook of how you planned to defeat a competitor, how you planned to win the war. Again, in Napoleonic Wars, this was adopted again as a term to mean how do you defeat competitors. Look, put simply, a strategy is how do you plan to win? And yes, you may need operational plans in order to aid the strategy, but the strategy itself has to define who it is that we are going up against, in what arena, what is the sport that we're playing here, how do we plan to beat the competitors, and ultimately, how do we plan to win more customers and please more customers? Now, the primary difference between these two is you don't own the customer. You can't bring the customer and pay them enough money to become loyal. You've got to add value. And that's a tricky game, because when you enter into strategic planning, you don't know the outcome until you get stuck in and try it. Where with almost every plan, you do. There is a defined outcome. Plans contain little in the way of risk. Strategies are all about risk, adventure, winning new wars against new competitors to win new customers and win that prize. The famous Russian author Leo Tolstoy was famed as saying that everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change himself. I find that when we go to do digital transformation consultancy projects, unless the senior leaders, the C-suite, have spent at least 1 week in education of themselves, it just doesn't work, because digital transformation is fundamentally a political process. It's much more difficult politically than it is even technically. And so when we ask the question, who wants change in the organization? Everybody's eyebrows go up and go, me. And then we ask, how do you plan to change? Eyebrows go down. Me? Me have to change? Education is the cornerstone to starting transformation. If a senior leadership team do not have 1 week to dedicate to their own self-improvement, they're not serious about transforming their organization. And I know it can be difficult to get out of the office, but out of the office you must. Start with education before you go to strategy. If the senior leadership are not on side and they don't understand their role and the implications of what this transformation means, it's never going to work no matter how good the strategy is. Educate, innovate, activate. That is our philosophy at Ionology. And to get you educated, we have 2 different offerings. One is a consultant's course, where you can become that trusted advisor inside your organization, or a consultant yourself. It's designed for individuals and it's delivered on Zoom. You can check out our website for more details. The corporate workshops are designed for larger organizations who want to bring together their senior leadership team to help them work on their own business problems, understand digital transformation, and learn how to build an AI-powered business of the future. It's not uncommon that after workshops we move into consultancy, where we help organizational leaders understand their current situation, the diagnosis, their ambition, and set out a strategy and plans of how they're going to achieve a digitally transformed organization that wins in the digital economy. If you're interested in any of this, please check out our website at ionology.com. Okay, generative AI is impacting the world, as everybody knows. But where is it impacting transformation? It's really speeding things up, in particular in 3 areas. The first one for me is leadership and their ability to make decisions. If the leadership have been trained in modern digital transformation frameworks and strategic planning frameworks, there is cause and effect modeling that can be done using data. It used to be that you had to understand data to be able to understand how to do the cause and effect modeling, but no more. We just pour the data into the large language model and then start to ask it questions in context with the frameworks, and we'll see that it does most of the hard work. This rapidly changes how we're going to make decisions and gives us better guidance from an expert, which is the large language model. The second area is in the area of innovation. Innovation is critical for digital transformation, especially if we're going to reposition ourselves in a digital economy. We're going to create new product, services and business models. That usually starts with a test hypothesis. We have an idea. Even writing a test hypothesis can be difficult. Large language models take care of it. Ask a large language model to define the riskiest assumption in your hypothesis. It will do it. Ask it to prioritize where you should start. It points the way. This used to take weeks of work and debate. It's now been completely neutralized by large language models. And last but not least is the skills gaps that always exist within businesses. You still need skilled people. The technology is still complex. The strategies are still difficult. And the business and political decisions that need to be made, they still all exist. However, the skills that are typically needed at lower levels in data entry, data understanding, data wrangling, processing, putting it into the right formats, being able to visualize it, being able to add it to strategic plans, being able to measure outcomes, that's all been done away with. The large language models now just make that quite simple. This allows people more time to keep their eye on the horizon, the vision that we're trying to achieve rather than the project we're trying to roll out. And transformation in general is only speeding up. Businesses will have to change, create and innovate faster than ever before, and those that can leverage the tool of AI and large language models in particular and integrate it into how they work will definitely outpace those that don't. Meet Gareth Walsh. Gareth is the CEO of a mid-sized contract engineering firm. What they do is they take product schematics from their clients and they'll turn it into machined outputs, metal, stuff that you use, products that are tangible. He's getting kind of tired of the business because it's very much peak and trough. Many of the clients may need to demand rush jobs quickly and it stretches their resources, and then there's other periods when they're lying fallow and they still have the cost to carry. Gareth also sees many of the components that are going into products that his customers are making are way more profitable than the engineering work it took to make the products. He wants to try to change things up, and he goes to see one of his local enterprise agencies about this new technology around Industry 4.0 and how they can help. The local enterprise agency says, "We will do a digital transformation strategy for you." They talk in detail about IoT, the collecting of large volume of data, that data being used to optimize workflows using machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's Industry 4.0, it's automation, it's fantastic. Gareth makes the investment in all of this technology, and you guessed it, nothing changes in his business. It's the same business with the same products, trying to deliver to the same customers. The problem wasn't necessarily the advice that he got to automate and to try to improve his systems. It was that it was mistaken as being strategic. It wasn't a strategy. When we take a look at Gareth's strategy that he has written, he does talk about Industry 4.0, further automation, moving premises, launching a new website, maybe even moving into a new factory. As we know, they are not strategies. They're operational upgrades, which he should conduct if he wants to stay in business. But if he wants to try to pivot and make a move into the product world, he's first got to find a customer problem to solve. Gareth now understands that he must ride a wave of industry change. That's where he's going to play. Industry changes can present themselves as political, legislative, demographic shifts, adjacent movements in other industries that are impacting you. In fact, anywhere where there is fog and confusion, there is an opportunity to innovate and bring clarity. The second wave that Gareth needs to follow is the wave of technical change. This is how he's going to play, how he's going to bring a new lens to existing or new problems, new ways of doing things. And this is where his Industry 4.0 investments will definitely help. The third thing Gareth needs to understand is the customer pain, the problem or unmet need. This is whom he is going to play with. This is where the problem exists right now or in the near future, and the pain is linked to industry change, and it's usually a hot topic at that moment. What happens next is that Gareth needs to practice a focused sessions of exploration, innovation and ideation to come up with possible solutions to the customer pain, problem or unmet need. There's one other thing that needs to be in place. He needs to be able to leverage the existing expertise and assets and skills that exist within the business if the idea is to take off. Gareth has no intentions of pivoting his business and repositioning in a digital economy at this stage. He's still got a long way to go before that happens. But what he is doing is he's signalling his intentions. What's more surprising for him is that he's now writing strategies that are a couple of pages long, they are short-term in nature, and most of all, they've got lots of areas that say, I don't know the answer. This took a large cup of humility for Gareth to write this down, but in reality, what he's doing is he's signalling to his team that I don't know, I need you to find out, here's some exciting places where we could go. Let's start experimenting, innovating, and finding a new way, leveraging these emerging technologies, and in particular, as we will see, large language models and AI. While Gareth's firm is a mechanical engineering firm, he works very closely with civil engineers in order to produce products that work in construction of roads and heavy industry. He's gotten to understand that industry, and he's deciding that he wants to leverage that knowledge and expertise within the business to be able to build something in that civil engineering space. He looks up the latest trends and he can clearly see that climate change is the hot topic of the day. He looks at climate sensitivity models and some of the predictions are harrowing, meaning floods are going to extend in particular in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, so our model's starting to look good right now. We know the wave of change in an industry, in civil engineering, it's around sustainability, climate change, floods, and making sure that we protect our infrastructure. We know the technical wave of change around AI, large language models, predictive models, machine learning and data and IoT. And we also think we know what the customer pain is, that they are going to have to protect their land. That part's pretty obvious, right? So they ideate around things that excites the engineers, around creating the most effective product, how they're going to build this thing, the supply chain that goes along with it, even into funding. But we've got to roll back a second here. Those things are not the riskiest assumption in this situation. Those things, they're qualified and understand, and they already know the answer to it. The riskiest assumption in this situation is, how do you know this is what the customer wants? How do you know this is where the money lies? How do you know someone is going to pay for a product or service in this area that you are going to create? Now, the best way that I have ever found to do it is make a brochure of the future state. Get those involved in the innovation to actually start to imagine what the scenario is going to look like as if you're going to pitch it to a customer. Then create the written brochure and maybe a pitch deck that will go along with it. Try phoning a few customers and seeing if you can get a meeting with them. And usually when you tell them that you're in some kind of investigation area around an innovation and you would like their feedback, and it's not necessarily a commercial pitch, they're much more open. The creation of temporary collateral, stuff that's used to test hypothesis, used to take weeks. If you wanted to design a brochure, you would have needed the designers and the copywriters. You needed the logo designed. You may have wanted to set it separate from your business as not to infect or cause any impact on your own brand. But nowadays, with large language models and generative AI, we can create all of this within hours. The other part that I really enjoy about generative AI in these early stages is that it keeps you strategically focused. Take a look at this example. This is a prompt created by the team in Gareth's organisation. I want to start a new division of our engineering business. It is a sea and river defence system. Our tests show we can build mobile sea river defences that can be easily stored, deployed quickly and automatically, and will be an essential part of every town built on a river or city near the sea over the next 20 years. What's the riskiest assumption surrounding this plan? Now, tackling the riskiest assumptions and even identifying the riskiest assumptions usually takes a substantial amount of work. You have to deconstruct your test hypothesis, what it is that you're trying to test, break it down into all of the assumptions, and then rank those assumptions. However, ChatGPT in this case says, given that you're confident with the technical feasibility of your sea and river defence systems, the most critical assumption to address will most likely be the market need and acceptance. I find it hard not to get excited about this stuff. Why? Because it used to take weeks to do all of this, and now it's taking minutes. If we had left our engineers to their own devices, they would have been away designing flood defences and looking at hydrodynamics and forces and all the things engineers get enthused about. But what the large language model did was pull us back to the reality and say, that's not your riskiest assumption. If you're wanting to be strategic, you've got to understand the customer and the market first. Now, we can apply this into larger frameworks that allow us to ask broader questions. The 7 Principles of Digital Business Strategy is the Ionology framework. It has been custom made for digital transformation and it is data powered. Let me give you a very quick example. The 7 principles are based around what you want to achieve in your business, what the customers want to achieve, what options they have in the marketplace or your competitors, the resources you have for the battles you're going to take on, where you are now and your strengths and where you would like to be. Data feeds into this. Many public data sources are available right now, and if you even take the basics of what every business would have, these are things like Google Analytics, which is what people are doing and how they're interacting with you. Google Search Console, what's happening in the wider market. We've got Google Trends, what's happening around the world and overseas, and Google Keyword Planner. And we also have Propulsion and many other tools that measure punching weights of competitors. There's a lot more about this on our website on the Digital Transformation Frameworks page. So now we have the source of all this data, we have the framework and where to put it. All we have to do is go into the top right hand corner, select the share files, download the files as CSV files, create an explanation of what's in the file, upload it into the large language model, and start asking it sensible business questions. This is game-changing stuff. It used to be that you would have had to have understood the interfaces of the products themselves. There's a lot of different complications in that. There's a lot of complications in understanding the data itself, but now it's extract, put it into large language model, help it join the dots, and the thing that's missing is your strategic questions that need to be answered, and the framework helps deliver on that. So Gareth's team continue to fill out the 7 Principles framework, and one of the things they have to do is take a look at the competition. When they go to visit potential clients, they're instructed these are the guys to beat. And you can see that their product is simple in its design, low cost, and so they fear, how are we ever supposed to beat this? They then go and start talking to the customers about the tasks that the customers would like to complete and if there would ever be a way in which they could sell them product should it get developed. The customers go through a long list of their problems which can appear disheartening. They don't want to invest in temporary products. They don't want to have to store products because they don't have the warehousing. They don't want to have to deploy the products because it can be politically sensitive. The budget is either allocated to larger scale infrastructure projects or emergency response, and the emergency response budgets can't be spent unless there's a crisis. There is no shortage of suppliers chasing too few customers, and there's interdepartmental politics as to who is in charge of doing the flood defences and the deployment anyway. Most business entrepreneurs would be disheartened by this. But Gareth knows that you seek a customer pain, problem, or unmet need. Pains are not necessarily reasons not to do something. They're an opportunity to pivot, find a way through, and sell your products and services and innovate better than anyone else. So, with it appearing to be too difficult to sell directly to government, the guys turn up at several flooding events, which were easily predicted during the winter. And as they start to observe the behaviours of the citizens that live in these villages, they realise that there's a real sense of community spirit during a flooding tragedy. Everyone wants to help, but there's no coordination or positive actions for them to take. And it makes them wonder, what if we trained a citizen response flood defense team used our product, and we created some kind of coordination app to help. They start to ask some of the citizens that were involved and impacted by these floods, and they said, great idea. We would do anything at this stage in order to avert crises again. When the team get back to the office the next day, they say to a large language model, I need you to create a financial model for my business. I'm going to attach a spreadsheet. I've included the cost of creating products, storing them close to flood hotspots, building a citizen-developed workforce, and creating a pay-as-you-go ordering system that has AI-powered, demand-driven pricing quoting system. Can you help me create a working business and financial model so that I can present it to potential investors? Absolutely, says the large language model. I'd be happy to help you create a financial model for your business. Please go ahead and attach the spreadsheet and the relevant data such as cost of production, storage, workforce, and pay-as-you-go system. Once I have the data, I can assist in the structure of a comprehensive financial model suitable for presentation to investors. This model would typically include elements like revenue projections, cost analysis, break-even analysis, cash flow projections, and possibly more depending on the specific needs of your business. I think we've got to just catch our breath for a moment. Here we have an engineering firm that could have made a product but didn't. Why? Because it knows that's not going to be the problem. It'll be able to make the product okay. Its innovation has come from trying to understand the customer and the market, and they've got there in days, not weeks, days. They've been able to test their proposition and they've been forced to pivot. The pivot means that they now need to create, if it's successful, an AI-powered, surge-based pricing mechanism and a citizen coordination app based on location, and then the product needs to be there to fulfill the demand, so they're going to have warehousing and different types of distribution. These are critical strategic issues and also create great competitive advantage. While everyone's trying to sell to the obvious, they create a business model that isn't so obvious but just might work, and they've done it in days. This was not possible before large language models and AI. The skills required were simply too deep and the timelines would have taken forever. The digital part of this transformation is, once we, Gareth's team, get up and running, the amount of technology that's going to be needed to make all of this work is substantial. And it will also leverage all of their Industry 4.0 upgrades and operational efficiency that they've built into their factory. It allows them to diversify into new market opportunities. It allows them to reposition themselves in the digital economy. It allows them to become an industry authority. Now, I could go on in this story, but I think the essence of it is told and you understand the concepts behind it. I thank you for watching the video to this length of time and listening to me monologue. No one wants to do that for longer than they should. If you would kindly give it a little thumbs up on YouTube, and if you're interested in education for your executive team, please inquire about one of our workshops or consulting if we can help you in any way. The line is always open. It costs nothing to communicate. If you're interested in becoming that trusted advisor and as an individual, please take a look at our consultants course. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a very successful digital transformation.